Good evening once again, and welcome. It's Monday night, it's 8 o'clock, and it's time for the Monday Review Show. This is where we discuss all things refereeing and referees, including laws of the game, red cards, yellow cards, free kicks, etc., etc., etc. If you'd like to make a comment on the show, please do so. It's on the bottom right-hand side of your screen there. You can make a comment, or you can even ask a question. If there's something that's bothering you. I'm delighted to be joined once again by my regular guest, former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, and former head of the PGMOL. What's the PGMOL? Well, those are the guys, the Premier League Match Officials Limited, and those are the guys who look after referees and assistant referees in the Premier League and in the Championship. Keith, thanks very much once again for joining me. Where shall we start? I mean, there was a lot of country. Let's start with Anthony Taylor. And this is the problem with technology today. For those of you who didn't see it, I don't know who could not have seen it, but there was a free kick to Manchester United. It was Manchester United, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
To Manchester United. Yeah.
Yeah. And normally what happens if there's a free kick anywhere in and around the penalty area, the referee steps out the 10 yards, the old 10 yards, and old money. Currently with the new metric system is 9.15 meters. But let's use old money for the sake of this, because many people wouldn't know the new system. So we'll call it the 10 yards. But stepping out the 10 yards, but with modern technology and TVs and all kinds of fancy gadgets, they discovered that in fact from the ball to the wall, the defending wall, was actually 11.2 meters, and there was huge furore over this. Now it said it gave Bruno Fernandes an extra advantage to dip the ball over the wall, and of course he scored from it. It was a tremendous goal, fantastic goal. But was there a problem, and could there be an appeal? Keith?
Well, I think it's interesting. I want to perhaps just go through how I coach referees in terms of the management of a free kick that is likely to be a set piece. I think the first thing is that, you know, when you award that free kick, just delay fractionally, not the whistle, but your move towards the ball, because you could well have a player who decides to take a quick free kick and put the ball in the back of the net, and that saves you a lot of hassle. On the majority of occasions, the attacking team want the set piece free kick. The first thing you do as a referee is ensure that the ball is positioned correctly. You say to the attacking players fairly loudly, do not kick that ball until I give you a signal. Remembering that signal doesn't necessarily have to be a whistle. It can be a hand movement. It can be verbal. I also, in my pre-match instructions, say to my assistant referees, you keep your eye on that ball. And if they move it, I want to be informed. Because, you know, you can go through all the procedure of a set piece, and the problems are that you've done it and then they move the ball to the side, to the left, or whatever. Now what you do is, ideally, you pace the wall out. Invariably, you have to pace it out. Now, if it's in and around the penalty area, you've got guidelines. The outer edge of the D to the penalty mark is, we know, 10 yards. So in that situation, that's a good guide. But pace it out. So now don't go into the wall and try to push them back. Go to the left-hand side of the wall. That way you're always facing your assistant referee as well, who's on the right wings. And as you pace out and you get to the wall, if it's, you pace 7 or 8, then in that situation, take the wall with you However, at the elite level, you've got a spray can so you can walk past the wall, draw the line on the pitch, and then use that as a means of saying, get back to that wall. So the minimum has to be 9.15, 10 yards. How do you know it's 10 yards? Because you're not measuring it out. This is where you, as the referee, have got to practice. Now, for me, 6 foot and a bit, it was 10 strides. For smaller people, it might be 11 or 12. You have to practice that away from the game with colleagues if need be, and determine how many steps you take. That way, you know that you're fairly accurate with the 10 yards. Now, remember, the wall has to be at least 10 yards. And this is the scenario. But the added problem you've also got here is you've got to ensure that the attacking team are 1 meter away from the wall. You know, this avoids the shenanigans that were going off. And something that you, Errol, have raised on many occasions, why don't we do the same for corner kicks and have that meter distance between attackers and defenders? It seems a natural change in the future that they ought to make. But anyhow, so you've now got the wall back. You come back to your position and have the view. Ideally, your assistant in view, good viewing angle of the goal. It was interesting, Anthony Taylor's position, because he was the assistant side of the ball, if you like, to the right of the ball, which is unusual, because I think most of us would go left, looking in. But
then he's in danger of having his back to his assistant.
Correct.
If anything goes on, instead of being the other way and looking straight across, eye contact with the assistant. So you've got 4 sets of eyes, one looking from one side, the other looking from the other. And I've noticed some referees doing that a lot, drifting over towards their assistant. When there's no need to diagonal.
Yeah, I think that's the history of that. I think comes about when, if you remember, UEFA some years ago had an official standing behind the goal line near the goal nets, and then the flow path of the referee was changed, and he had to move towards the right. Nonsense, all of it.
Absolutely.
So here's the rub here. Anthony Taylor appears to have pushed the wall back to a greater distance. Now, there are some referees that have done that in the past. I can remember an elder referee saying to me years ago when I was a youngster, Keith, you get them back 11 or 12. And that way, when they squeeze forward, you finish up with 10. You'll not be criticised. But that practice tends now to be rare. So,
because they have the spray can.
Yeah. So I think when we look at basic refereeing here, in law, Anthony Taylor, who really had a good game, by the way, I thought he refereed really well. He put himself in jail because of lack of understanding of people who are commenting on the game, because we go back to law. It's in law 3 and on restarts, and there you have it, that you have at least 10 yards. The wall has to be back. If they go back 12 or 13, then that's their fault.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think you set your own standard. And the ideal base is there's an expectation that it's 10 yards. That's what you want to achieve minimum. And in that situation, it's interesting. I mean, I've been critical, Anthony Taylor, on this one incident because he seemed to lose his datum point. The datum point is the ball, but because of like the nonsenses that were going off, he got wrapped up in trying to get the meter, and instead, and of course, the attacking team formed almost at 10 yards, and he's then pushing the wall back further. Now that's going to be a ploy by the attacking team.
Interesting, Keith. So if the attacking players take up a position, well, let's use old money, 10 yards from the ball, the defending team has to be a meter away from them. So they could be 11 yards.
Correct. He pushes them back.
So this is why, from a coach's point of view, it's important that the defending team take up that 10 meters, and the other guys can stand anywhere. They can stand 5 yards from the ball because they're the attacking team. But if the attacking team takes up, they normally have 3 or 4 players in the wall or close to the wall, and if they take up their position 10 yards from where the ball is, the defending team then has to go at least 11 yards.
Yeah. And then, of course, And the reason I go for the first bit about the position of the ball is because I saw there was a phase in the Premier League where the referee went through that process and the attacker who was going to take a shot on goal moved the ball back a yard. So the defending wall was 10, but he moved it back a yard.
Well, he shouldn't do that
on some occasions to be able to get over the wall,
because he's got to take. He's got to kick. You got to take the free kick from where the incident occurred. Now,
correct.
You're not going to be splitting blades of glass or things like that. But generally, and when the referee makes his mark,
this is
break to where the ball is supposed to be, then the ball to move the ball to their own advantage, be they the defenders or the attackers. So it's all their tactics and their shenanigans they get up to.
I think when we're discussing and sometimes being a little critical of a referee, we're effectively doing that in order to enlighten the people who listen in. And there's no question that it's a quick one. Position of the ball, stride out your 10 yards, ensure that the attacking team is a yard away, come back, get your position. And a lot of refereeing, if you like, out on the field of play is about process. And if you create processes, it's habit forming, and that habit forming then allows you to get in. And I think that's important.
Just another issue, Keith, and it's just come to my mind. It's not on the list of topics to be discussed, but very quickly we can talk about it. This issue of the ball, particularly at a corner kick, where the ball is, to all intents and purposes, is outside the quadrant, but just because the edge of it appears to be just tipping the quadrant, it's deemed to be in the quadrant. Penalty kicks, it's a 9-inch diameter for the circle for the penalty spot, 12 yards. Let's use all money, 12 yards. But players now moving that ball forward, so it's not actually 12 yards. It's now 11 yards and 9 inches from the goal line, under the crossbar and between the uprights. They're stealing inches there as well.
I think that the application of the law over recent years has actually, I think, and referees thinking, well, it's not that important, is it? A couple of inches a corner kick or a penalty kick, and it's just slightly forward. But it is, because for me, referees have created the problem.
Yeah.
The law hasn't changed. The law still indicates they want the ball inside the quadrant. And so for me, I think it was very clear inside the quadrant. But now what we're getting is we're getting creepage, because players will go, I'll take another inch and I'll take another inch. And there are occasions when you're watching television And I know a sphere on a straight line, all those sort of things that we've discussed in the past. It still looks as though it's out of play.
Yeah.
And out of the quadrant. And you say, well, you know, you're allowing margins there, but you wouldn't allow that same margin ball cross the line.
And it's our fault, Keith, as referees, as match officials, that we are allowing players to water down the laws of the game. You know,
absolutely.
I'm not talking about a blade of grass or things like that, but they're gradually watering it down to the extent that it then becomes the norm.
Yes.
The law still says A, but players are doing B and getting away with it, and referees are allowing them to get away with it.
Correct. And I think you know, this is the pity. You know, the referees allow these sort of creepages, and then they find themselves in jail.
Yeah. I posted a video.
I mean, just to thing, you know, because I know sometimes we get people coming back at us, and I just want to make the point. Law 17, the corner kick. The ball must be placed in the corner area nearest to where the point where the ball passed over the goal line. The ball must be placed in the corner area nearest the point at which. So, you know, I mean, the law, they've not changed the law. They might have changed the process. And I think sometimes this is what confuses people.
You see, if the lines of the field belong to the areas of which they are boundaries, that means the outer, what's the word, of that line.
Circumference.
But even the lines on the field of play and the penalty area and so on, the lines belong to the areas of which they are boundaries. So if once it's on the edge of that, and this is what they're doing.
Yes.
And at one time, remember also that a goal kick had to be taken. Initially, it had to be taken from the side where it left the field of play. And then IFAB came up and said, no, let's take it from either side just to speed up the game. But the ball goes out on the left, and the goalkeepers, to waste time, are going over to the right. And referees are allowing them to get away with it.
They've done the opposite. And of course, from July onwards, but in many competitions, you have to be mindful of the competition when it's introduced. I mean, the law for next season, as we'll put it loosely, will change, where the goalkeeper now is only allowed 6 seconds and never penalised. The lawmakers have decided that goes to 8 seconds now, and he is to be penalised. They want referees to penalise it, and the restart is a corner kick.
I won't hold my breath on that one, Keith.
And of course, the whole aim is to speed up the game. And the one area where I think we lose a lot of time is at corner kicks, where we've talked about the ball being in the quadrant, and of course then we talk about the referees going in and saying their little piece to whoever's pushing and pulling and come back and ignore it.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
Drives me.
And of course, what that is leading to is they're allowing the grappling to take place. In the area, and now what we're seeing is a greater use of strength against skill, with upper body fouls, as I put, illegal use of hand and arm to hold or push or pull. Interesting to see those going unpunished.
Incredible. And yet a player gets a slight little tap on the center, in the center circle, and the referee gives a free kick. And here they are behaving like rugby players in the penalty area, and nothing is given. Except, what do they? My son asks me all the time, Dad, what do they What does the referee say to the players? I said, I have
I
no
don't
idea,
know.
because
Hello.
it's no consequence, because they're not doing it. There's only
No.
two things should happen with that, and
Yeah.
that type of thing happens. Two things:
Yeah.
either a free kick to the defending team, or it's a penalty kick to the attacking team. That's it. I wouldn't even go and talk to them. I'd say,
Yeah.
play on, bring the corner over, and then pick out one or the other, give you a penalty kick or give you a free kick. But it can't be nothing, Keith. It has to be something, you know.
Yeah. I've just remembered an incident that I want to raise with you, which took place this weekend in Scotland. I can't remember the game. There's a player on the attack and he's entered his opponent's half, right? So he's heading for goal. There is the defender fouls the player. So the attacking player, he's heading for goal, he's in possession of the ball, and he's fouled from behind by a defender. About 5 yards into the opponent's half. To the right of him, maybe 10 yards away, 15 yards, is a defender. The referee applies advantage on what is clearly a denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity if he blows the whistle.
Oh, so yeah.
He applies an advantage. Another attacking player has now gained possession. So he's down. The defender's committed the foul. So he's out of it. This attacker's, the defender on the right is now coming in, but another attacker gets possession of the ball, of which he applies advantage. As they get into the penalty area, the defender intercepts him and makes a fine tackle. Question. And this is a matter of seconds from the point at which he's applied advantage to the point at which the attacker has now been challenged by another defender. It's my contention that the attacking player, the first attacking player who was fouled, was clearly in a goal-scoring opportunity. Does the referee now just allow play to continue, or the advantage is not materialized and he goes back and sends the player off? There's the dilemma for the referee.
That's what I would do, because they have been doing that, allowing an advantage to almost like rugby, but not for as long as, but a matter of second. And I think they were given something like 3 or 4 seconds at one time. That's what I would do. If no advantage was gained and it happened within seconds, I'd bring it back and give a red card for a dog saw.
I said exactly the same. So we're on the same page. I think the dilemma for the referee is he probably in his mind thinks that the second defender, right, has got the opportunity to make that challenge. But in reality, I don't think he would have made that challenge. So this is a degree of subjectivity around that particular decision. My view is one of the things when you coach referees, and I say it again, is in the thought process, take away the defender who's committed the foul. Now your judgment is, if that foul hadn't taken place, would that player, with the possession of the ball, continued his run and had a shot on goal? And that, for me, is why I think the referee should have gone back and red carded the defender.
See, Keith, with the dog saw, as they now call it, denying of a goal-scoring opportunity, it's similar to the pass back to the goalkeeper. It's not a back pass; it's a pass to the goalkeeper.
Correct.
And in my opinion, it doesn't make any difference if there's 4 defenders there,
no,
or 1, because they're saying, "Oh, there was another defender." It makes no difference whether there's 1 or 4 or 10. Was the player denied a goal-scoring opportunity? The same with the so-called back pass. That makes no difference either.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And now maybe people will say, oh, you're too hard or you're too conservative in these things. But as we said earlier, the laws have been watered down to the extent that it's hard to recognize them anymore. Because, and it's our fault. And when I say our fault collectively, as referees are not doing their job.
Yeah. I mean,
why? Perhaps are they scared of being dropped and won't get another game because they did something that was controversial, but it was controversial, but it was correct. So it may be controversial, but was it the correct decision? And I'm very apt not to use right or wrong, because right to you is wrong to me. But there is a correct and an incorrect way to do it. And was he correct in doing it, or was he not correct? And they're allowing the laws to be watered down by players. Yeah. And I found the powers that be are doing nothing about it.
I know. Just when you're determining dogs, though, in that situation, remember distance between the offence and the goal, the general direction of play, the likelihood of keeping or gaining control of the ball, location and number of defenders is part of the law. But what you're determining is, can a defender make a challenge on the player had he not been fouled to stop him from scoring? And it's all subjective. It's a fairly subjective law. And the reason I dwell on it is I go back to many years when I sent off Gary Crosby in a semi-final, when the law had just been changed, or the interpretation, and I sent Tony Gale off, ruined the game. There's no question about that. Got death threats afterwards and everything.
But Keith, ruined the game in whose opinion?
Well, I mean, that's. I mean, in fairness,
did you regret it?
No. No.
Never regretted
no, I mean,
never.
When I made that decision, somebody said to me, "You'd have come off with a lot more glory had you not done it, and the game might have." And I've gone,
glory.
The law is the law, and I've applied the law. And Gary Crosby was denied an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, and yes, the interpretation changed the Thursday before, but he would still have gone, and that issue still gets raised.
I put a clip up on Facebook during the week, a throw-in here in Ireland in a League of Ireland match, where the ball came over his head. It's almost as if it fell out of his hands, came into play, referee blew the whistle, gave the ball back to the same player who then took a correct throw-in. What is going on?
Well,
and this guy, by the way, is wearing a FIFA badge.
I found that amazing.
He was wearing a FIFA badge.
I saw the clip.
Oh, I sent it to you.
The law is quite clear. Yeah. The law is clear, and that is for any other offence, right? It's talking about, initially the law's talking about the defenders being 2 meters away and all that goes with it. For any other offence, the throw-in is taken by the player of the opposing team. And you're quite right. We could talk at length about reactive and proactive referee. The referees that I like are proactive. The referees who I like, who set the example from minute one, who say, I want the throw-in taken from there. And I'm taking a proactive approach by saying it's there. And if need be, if he starts creeping down the line, I'm actually giving some short blasts on the whistle to say, I want your attention. I want it here. And at the point that he doesn't respond and the ball's thrown, I'm blowing the whistle and saying it's the other way.
And you know what's adding to that now, Keith? You know what's adding to that now is the fact that they had these extra balls at the side of the pitch. And when the ball went out of play, the first ball available, could be 10 yards down, and he'll pick it up. He's already stolen 10 yards.
Yeah.
And he's allowed to do it.
I mean, I watched a couple of games over the last few days. And of course, the other one that nobody's picking up, and that's the one-handed throw.
Oh, Trent
And, you know,
Alexander.
I mean, I just say to the assistants, look at the position of the hands on the ball,
It's supposed to be
and not that. And then what they're going to do is they launch and follow through. And I'm going like, that's a foul throw. Or the guys, a lot of the overseas players, because it's never punished in certain countries, do they?
Exactly.
They just
Exactly
don't
what
even
we said
put it on.
earlier on. They're getting away with it, so they're going to keep doing it.
You know, I say this, you know, to young referees, you need to be proactive and understand what you're looking for and why you need to penalise it. You know, I mean, my grandson had a game, the second team had a game this weekend, and he showed me a photograph of one of his teammates where, as the ball was in the air, the opponent deliberately elbowed him in the face and broke his nose.
What age are these now, kids?
Pardon?
What age are these kids?
Oh, this is a seniors game. This is like our second team.
Oh, right.
And
Adult.
so, yes, so adults. So as a result, the elbows used, and it's broken the nose of the player. He was at hospital today. Wow. The referee has awarded a free kick, nothing else. Now, okay, I think you and I would say missed one and got it wrong, but there is another player in the same game received the same treatment and probably was sat alongside his mate in the hospital today, having his nose put back in place. and you know, we've all got to learn the game, but one of the things that I just want to alert, and I've already mentioned it, there are a lot of referees who are failing in their responsibility of recognizing what I term upper body fouls. You know, I saw a push this weekend, and the commentator saying, yeah, it's only a slight push. It's a push. He's put the player off.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, he used his arm. And it's interesting because I was asked to review a clip. A West Brom player was sent off because it's accused of elbowing an opponent. Now, the video clip does not show the incident. It's slightly off screen. It's off the ball. And my comment to the media people was, well, if West Brom have got the evidence from one of their own cameras, they should apply that, because they were absolutely adamant that the player was cheating. Interestingly, they've appealed. So one assumes that they have found a video clip. And I think that what is making life very difficult for referees now is the lack of respect of players on the field of play and the amount of cheating that goes on.
Incredible.
I mean, in a game this weekend that I was watching, I'll not get into too much detail, but I saw a penalty kick awarded that impacted on the result of the game, where the forward had deliberately ran into a defender and went to ground. There was no effort to play the ball. The player was actually going to ground before he made contact with the defender, and the referee bought it. And where I'm coming from now is I'm thinking This is making life so much difficult, even for referees at the top level, where we're getting a penalty kick turned down where the forward is seen on the screen to have simulated, and the referee doesn't take any action. And if referees don't actually recognize acts of simulation and penalize it, don't penalize it, then they'll do it more in your game.
Yeah.
You know, and if it's close, have a word. You know?
Yeah. On simulation, Keith, we could do a whole show or maybe 2 shows. But we're actually way over the time tonight. So again, Keith, many thanks for joining me tonight, and many thanks to you out there for watching. I hope you've learned something. Please keep your questions coming in, and we'll do it all again next Monday night. Until then, good night. Thank you.
Good night.